right, everyone. It is Tuesday night. It's 6 p.m. on the West Coast, 9 p.m. on the East Coast, and I think it's 8 p.m. where my guest is at right now. And, of course, something goes wrong. Wouldn't be a live feed without something going wrong on my channel. But, guys, we have a very, very special treat for you tonight. We got Bobby Casey here. We're going to talk about Department of Corrections. We're going to talk about inside of, prison, jail, whatever. We're going to have a good old time. And I've only got one person in the chat, so the roll call is going to be real easy. Dagan, my brother, how are you? Alrighty, guys, let's get into it. Bobby, I've known you for a while from the chats. You're also the guy who outbid me for Chesapeake to get your send profile made. So I thought that was really cool. Oh, look, we got Joey Hookham, T-Bearded Strickland. How you guys doing? So that's
I can't see none of the comments, so you'll have to read them out to me.
All right, I got you. So that's how I got to know you. But Bobby, man, tell us about you. Let's learn a little bit more about you.
Well, I'm from the middle of nowhere, Kansas. So there's really not much to talk about from where I'm from. But I've graduated high school, went to college for a little bit, and then became working. And that's really all I've done. I got married in 2015 to my wife. We used to work together at their hospital. So that's how we met. And then we got married in 2015. That was after I went back to the prison. And, that's pretty much it. I got 2 nieces. I don't have any kids, unfortunately. So,
well, I didn't have one until I got in this current relationship. Then I ended up with, 5 before and 1 I made. So you never know what can happen at some point, you know?
I would say yes, but my wife can't have kids no more. But so we'll go with
that.
I mean, I'll accept her kids for how they are. She's got a granddaughter, so I'm probably the youngest grandfather you'll ever meet.
Tevin, we miss you, brother. I hope you're doing well. Seriously, you really are missed.
Who is that?
Remember Tevin, little redhead?
Oh, yeah.
That's him.
Okay,
so you work in the Department of Corrections.
Yep. It's
an odd career choice. Was it like a family business, or what made you get up one day and go, you know what? I'm really in the mood to go behind these 4 walls.
Well, it's funny you ask, because my dad has worked in corrections since 1996, I do believe. And I always told myself that I would never work there, and look where I'm at. But really, it was I was in a relationship with a girl that I was engaged to, like in 2007. Moved away to go to college, and then met a girl in college, and then got engaged, broke up, and then in 2009 is when I moved back home. I always moved back home. I don't know. I think that's pretty common for most men, is to move back home with mom and dad. So, but after that, I needed a job. Worked at Walmart for about 2.5 weeks. I had my application into the prison. They called me the next day after probably 7-8 days of working at Walmart, and said bye.
Nice. Dave, good to see you in here, brother. Been a long while, man. And
What's up, Dave?
This is one of 4 I have. This is the Gronkowski one, so I really like that one. And had to wear old man flannel today because it's getting a little cold up here. But still.
It was 80 degrees yesterday here in Kansas.
Nice. Vato, brother. All right, so I've noticed with a lot of people in corrections, it's either a family business or it's a way for them to try to earn money while they're studying for something else. So I think that's cool that you said your dad was in there.
Yeah. He's a sergeant. He's been there for 25, 26 years now.
So when you said you did your app, what possessed you to do that app? Was it just, I want to follow in the family business, or was it, I really want to challenge?
I needed to pay bills. That's really that's the only reason why I applied for the job. In fact, I actually asked my dad if he was okay with me working there, just because I really didn't know what it was going to consume of me and him. I mean, we really have a weird relationship if you look back at father-son type relationships. I've never called my dad. Long story. That's probably a whole other podcast by itself. But I would say probably up until 2010, we've had like this sort of separate bond. I've always been closer to my mom than I have my dad, but I guess as time of me working at the prison, we've gotten like this. So I think that's probably helped us the most.
Well, that is a really good thing, because I know for the very longest time, my dad and I were separate, and I couldn't really call him dad. It was sir to show respect because, you know, he had the brand new family and I was the old family. But, you know, like you
Right.
said, that's a whole nother thing in all of itself. So I get where you're coming from there, you know?
Yep. Now it's just I still call him Terry, but that's just because it's the same to me. I mean, I think it'd probably be weird to him even if I said, "Hey, Dad."
Yeah.
He probably
Chef
wouldn't
always
even
loved
he
it.
probably wouldn't even acknowledge it. He'd probably just keep eating or looking at his phone.
This is one thing I should have asked Shaky, but I didn't. When you were a rookie correction officer, was there like a lot of hazing from the other guards on you? Like, you know, like you got the crap assignments, or was it more of a protect the new guy kind of thing?
I wouldn't say it was hazing. It was more like since the people in training knew my dad and they knew that I was of his, I guess, his flesh. So that, I mean, they gave me a hard time mainly because they knew who my dad was, not
Yeah.
because I was new. But you will get that. I mean, you got they talk to you different. It's not that they treat you different. They just talk to you as in like you're dumb, and that's probably a good thing. But in some cases, it's probably a bad thing because people take it the wrong way.
Well, this is the only way I can phrase it. I live in Washington State, so I get that because you've got to really be careful what you're saying because people are looking for microaggressions and any bad words or anything like that. It's not like the 70s where your dad's looking at you going, "Hey, dumbass, get the F over here." You
Right.
know, now it's something totally
But
different.
you will get that too.
Well, I think in your line of work and in some line of work like first responders in the military, that is desperately needed because it's a
Most
whole
definitely.
nother world,
Most
you
definitely.
know. And the biggest thing I think is having that thick skin because if you're going to get offended if someone says an F bomb and
Right.
you're working inside a prison,
It's not going to work very well.
yeah. And I just think we've kind of lost that, you know, along the way that you can sit and go, "You're an effing idiot. You're effing this up. You're doing this wrong. You're doing that wrong." One of my
Right.
former sergeants in the military, we still talk once a week. And he always answers the phone the same way. "What the fuck should you do now?" You know, not, "Hey, how you doing?" Just, "What the fuck should you do now?"
I had a master sergeant that would come into shift every night when I was working night shift in segregation. Actually, he would walk in and say, "What the fuck, over?"
Yeah, there you go. Or, you know, as we have to do it in civilian world now, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Yeah. That's probably what he had to do. That's probably why he liked it at the prison. He could say whatever he wanted.
Yeah. So here's a good question that, you know, I asked Shaky and I'm going to follow it up with you. What is one of the biggest myths you think that needs to be dispelled about how prison life is portrayed in TV shows and movies? Like, you know, you got Oz or The Mayor of Kingstown, I think just got released on Paramount, where you've got like 8 prisons in a certain area and one guy seems to run them all. So he is the mayor.
Right. Well, what's funny is that over quarantine, I got the whole HBO Max thing, right?
Yeah.
And I actually sat down and I watched literally the whole series of Oz. And it's when you watch Oz and then you go to my job, it's not it's like night and day. That there's nothing comparable about the two except that there's people in prison and there's people that aren't in prison, and that's literally it. But what I dislike mostly about I guess I wouldn't say what they try to make it look bad or look good is that there's really not as much violence at all by any means like what some people think, because the inmates want to be safe too, whether that's between themselves as a group or
Yeah.
between that individual, because he doesn't feel safe already as enough as this. He's a fish in a shark tank if you look at
Yeah.
it. But there's
Yeah.
really no violence like that. Yeah, there is violence, but there's violence at Walmart.
Well, that is true. But, you know, if you think about it, if you're not on the inside and not trying to use any jargon or anything, it's the only way I can say it. If you're not
Right.
in there 24/7 and you don't work there, you really don't know because
Right.
you see the shows where, you know, the bus is pulling up, everyone's in the yard, new fish, you know,
Right. And
screaming and yelling at people.
and I'm not going to say that that's not the same because I don't know the mindset of the inmates when they see that part. But I guess when a new inmate comes on, you know that it's a new inmate, whether it's his number or his demeanor or his look. I mean, we've got some guys that come in that are 60, 70 years old that are still new, but you can tell that they're new. You know what I mean? Just by the way that they walk.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it their countenance, the way they walk, the way they talk,
Right.
the way they're all, yeah.
It's just like a newbie that comes in to work at the prison. You can tell who's new and who's not new.
how long would you think it took for you to settle down and get in your routine when you were someone brand new there?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, like when I first started, I was on night shift, so I was able to learn like rules and policy and like anything that you could think of, like how things should go, easier than probably somebody who's on day shift. Uh, I actually was, I guess it was a blessing in disguise. I was stuck into a dorm with two guys who were probably on like the last 5 years of their corrections career.
Okay.
So I sat probably 8 hours in this little bubble with two guys. One of them he would listen to oldies for like literally 7 hours and 53 minutes of my shift. And I would just keep wanting to get up and do rounds and all that stuff. And then I had a master sergeant who, he was a firecracker. I guess that'd be a nice way to put it. He was a little out there. He got upset with me a lot because I couldn't sit down. I got ADHD real bad. So I guess the best thing that I guess did for myself was I took the time at like reading policy and then manipulating that into whenever I switched shifts. I went to 3 to 11 shift, which is the swing shift.
Yeah.
And I was able to, I guess, point myself in the right direction if I didn't have a good trainer, but I was actually blessed with good trainers. It's probably what helped me out the most.
Okay. Now, this is something else I did ask Shaky, and I know that every institution is different. Everyone has their own rhythms, their own flows, their whatever.
Right.
Do you ever get that sense that something's about to go off? It's like you're sitting there, then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, way too quiet. Everyone's behaving. What the hell?
Not only that, but me being in the gym and yard now, I'm the recreation supervisor. I mean, I can tell when something's either not right or when something's about to pop off. Usually there's guys playing basketball at every second of the yard. And if there's nobody playing basketball, there's something going down.
So that's kind of like your key is basketball.
Well, I mean, yeah, when we're in the gym, if we're outside, like there's 3 basketball courts versus 1 in the gym. Okay. And some people don't like to play basketball outside, so that's a little bit different. So a new officer would probably be like, why isn't nobody playing basketball? Well, they don't like to play outside very much because it's windy. But lots of grouping up, like if a specific, I guess, race of inmates are grouping up in a certain part of the yard, then I usually call the officer in charge is what you'd call it. But and he'll send extra officers out. I mean, I can usually pick up on that pretty quick.
Nice. And for anybody watching this, I do want to clarify that I specifically told Bobby in the beginning, we're not going to talk about anything security related, and we're not going to talk about anything that might put his job in jeopardy. Just the same, how can I put it? The same stuff that I extended to Shaky, I'm extending to Bobby. So if anyone wants anything weird, you're going to have to contact him yourself because it ain't going to be on the show. All right. So you've been there how long now?
In 2009 is when I started. I left in 2011 for a better, I guess, job opportunity. I went and worked in a psychiatric unit at a hospital, which is essentially the same thing, if you really think about it. And then I left from that back to the prison, only because I got tired of doing my job at the hospital, which was, I was an underpaid MMA fighter, and that's literally how I saw it.
Sorry. Emmert has a question for you. He goes, where are you a correction officer at?
Hutchinson, Kansas. So the Department of Corrections in Kansas.
Oh God, how can I phrase this? Is it like a mixed staff? Do you have male and female officers, or is it just like an all-male staff?
Oh, it's male and female. The females just are restricted on what they can and can't do and what posts they can and can't work. So, like if there's a direct contact with an inmate 24/7. Usually actually now they don't put any female staff just in case. It's called PREA compliance, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act.
Okay.
Which doesn't make sense if you actually think about it, because we have men who like men and women who like women. So really, what's the difference of putting a woman in front of a cell versus a male in front of a cell?
Hey, Aaron. Well, it's also like the military has sharp sexual harassment and rape prevention training, which makes me go, what happened since I got out? Because It's like if somebody on one base screws something up, everybody Army-wide has to sit down and do sharp training.
Right.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? I know no means no. Don't approach. Don't do anything. Why do I have to sit here and do a PowerPoint class to say no means no? Look at this face. I know no means no. You
And
know?
that's the thing about the Army. Like I mean, you have the right to say no. In prison, I mean, they don't have the right to say yes.
Well, that is the flip side. Whereas you're in
Right.
prison, you're supposed to be denied certain things in hope of rehabilitation, which also makes me wonder. I don't think I asked Shaky this, but do you guys give like classes on how to reintegrate back into society, or is it just
Yeah.
like your time and get the fuck out? You know?
Well, no, they go through a series of programs. So, like, say when an inmate gets put down for X amount or XYZ of whatever charge you got
Yeah.
convicted of. So, depending upon that charge, he's going to have a series of different classes he has to finish before he even has a chance to get out.
Okay, that makes
So,
sense.
if you or I were put in for like theft, we would have to go do like, I don't know, probably like, I don't know, theft and or like, I don't know,
Yeah,
what is
like
that called?
Dev Talk, where you sit
Right.
down and you talk about don't steal. This is why
Right.
people steal. Yeah, I
Right.
get that. So is your prison like Supermax, or what level would you say you are?
Up until about a month and a half ago, we were Supermax because they pulled all the inmates out of one of the oldest, actually was the oldest facility in Kansas. We're the second oldest facility, so we still have the limestone walls and everything. So they pulled inmates out of that prison, dispersed them out. While they rebuilt that, we became Supermax.
Do you ever walk around your prison and feel like the history that's been there, the people have gone through? I
Well,
mean,
yeah, I mean, for the longest time as a kid, driving by that prison, I thought it was a house. I was like, damn, I kind of want to live in that fucking place.
how many bathrooms does that have? Oh my God, how many
Right.
bedrooms?
Right. But no, I mean, yeah, I mean, I look at when I'm outside, I'm like, man, I wonder how many people have actually died on this grass that I'm walking on. I mean, I don't know that. My boss doesn't know that. So, I mean, I sit there and I wonder what's gone down in this yard that I haven't seen. I mean, because of the stuff that I have seen, I'm sitting there like, man, it's been bad. Not Oz bad, but bad.
Okay, but it also makes me wonder. Yeah, don't pay attention to the angry white woman behind me.
Oh, it's all right.
You'll be okay. Because like when you see prisons like Alcatraz and you think like the worst of the worst was handled there, and when they're giving tours, it's like this was Al Capone's cell. It's always made me wonder as a correction officer when you're walking through and going, well, like oh my God, like Charles Manson as an example, dude, he was here for years.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, yeah, just because of local cases that I've dealt with here in my state, I know who that person is, but they wouldn't be so big that you'd probably hear about them. Well, not at this level. There's probably one or a tops of 3 cases that probably went, I guess, nationwide that you have probably heard of.
Well, and I get that, like with state to state. Do you ever? God, this is going to sound fanboyish. Do you ever get awestruck, like when you get that celebrity prisoner in, and you're like, don't look that bad?
Not really, because most of the time, even as an officer, I didn't know who they were. Like, if I might have saw them on TV, but they look completely different because they go through a series of. Oh, go ahead.
And we're going to get to that in a little bit. It's in another segment that I have.
Okay.
Oh, look, it's the Jersey Jerk Off. What's up, Joe?
Joe, he didn't even know who I was. He was like, "Who's Bobby?" He's done that before, but no. Whenever I saw an inmate that actually went through the process of getting arrested, going to jail, going through RDU after they get found guilty, they go to one facility to where they get mental evaluation, they get behavioral evaluation, they get whether or not they can be around certain types of people, whether that be race, gender, whatever. Then they get put into this little section, and then they get chosen to what prison they go to. So by that time actually happens, they've actually either aged terribly because of their living, like I guess how they're living in that given time. But no, I've never actually came up on one guy and said, "Oh man, hey, that's who," whatever it is. But a buddy of mine has probably told me, and I'm like, "Really? He looks like shit."
Now, as a correction officer, I know you go out there on YouTube, okay? How do you feel about the rise of God, how can I put it? Ex-cons who are making YouTube channels to teach you how to get over in prison. Do you guys ever see those and be like, all right, now we got to start watching this, we got to start watching that?
Now, I don't know how the actual, like, I guess, head people of, like, say, our special operations team actually deals with that. I mean, that's who I would think would probably do it. But We do get emails time to time from our internal investigations department, and then they'll be sending like, oh, hey, look in like the loaves of bread, or look in their shampoo bottles, look in their baby powder. But yeah, I mean, really, I think it probably makes corrections officers' jobs a little bit easier if they watch those videos.
See, I would think so, but it also makes me go a little bit insane. And Beer Talk with Kyle and Joe goes, Bobby Casey, we're out.
That's got to be Joe.
It always is. Cousin Joe always controls the social media. And Bill Rivers, how are you, brother? I mean, I like watch some of those, and it always makes me giggle because, like, you've got Larry Lawton, who has this really successful channel, and he's like, well, here's how we make prison, this is how we make prison pizza. This is how we make our wine in prison. And I'm like, so you're putting this out there on the internet for the guards to find.
And it's really no secret. I mean, I've came across inmates who have told me how they've actually made hooch when I was an officer. I mean, they told me how they did it. I didn't see it. But it's not that we don't know that they're doing it. It's like, what's the best way for them to hide it? Like in a loaf of bread, like I don't know if you saw that one where they take out like 4 from each end and then hollow out the rest of the loaf of bread and then hide all their stuff in there. Because who's going to search the whole loaf of bread? Well, fortunately, our facility has an X-ray machine, so it's not really going to work there.
Right. Now, that always made me wonder, like when you have to basically turn out a cell, isn't that a little awkward for you guys going into somebody's home and like ripping everything down and throwing it on the floor and checking through everything?
And that's the thing that doesn't happen. That's another thing that you probably see in like Shawshank or Oz or anything like that. That's not how a shakedown happens. But usually when you go in and shake down, common courtesy, obviously, yeah, you can be a dickhead and go in and tear up their cell. But I mean, it's really not going to do anything but either get you into a wreck or the guy that's taking over for you next shift. That's a common courtesy thing. If I want the safety of my fellow staff to not have to worry about what's going to happen next, I'm not going to go in and piss off this guy before I go home.
But I've always wondered about that, like the give and take between the guards and the inmates. Is there a lot of respect that's given back and forth? Like you guys going in?
You're cutting out.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, you're good. I heard you. I just didn't know if you knew you were cutting out.
No, I saw my screen went blank and I saw the rotating internet thing. Guys who are watching this, we've got a lot of high winds, we've got flooding, we got power lines down. So if we drop, sorry, we will get Bobby back at another point. But still, like I was saying, is there that level of respect when you're going in and you're like, look, you don't want me doing this. I don't want to be doing this. Can you just give me what I'm looking for? Does that ever work? Or
yeah, it does work given like the person that they're talking to. So like older inmates, they're gonna have a little bit way more respect than someone who's new right off the streets because they have something to prove at that point, if that makes sense.
I get that.
I mean, they have to step their ground just to show like their fellow, I guess, buddies, hey, I mean what I say and I do what I say or do what I'm gonna say. But with the officers, back when I first started in 2009, it's weird that it's not that long ago. It's less than 11 years ago, and yet you can fully see it at a full 360. When I started, I was 21, and now we're hiring 18-year-olds right off the street, right out of high school. Wow. So there's not that brotherhood like it used to be.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No, I get it because like I asked you in the beginning about a family business. Because like you always see like the officers having a cookout before they go to work, or softball, or everyone's getting together for beer bus because somebody's graduating high school, someone's getting married. It's that family of officers. Now I also understand, especially with how can I put it, with contraband and how lucrative it can be. I also understand how certain officers can put other ones in a bit of a problem. Like it always made me giggle when Trump was in office and every cell phone got an alert. I went, man, those prisons must be lively right now when those things just went.
Right. I mean, and that's another thing, like cell phones. I mean, that really has like done a full like thing. Like back when I first started, cell phones really weren't that big of a problem. But now, I mean, you're finding or hearing about somebody finding a cell phone at least once or twice a day. So, I mean, you would think that like people who don't have cell phones, like on the streets, you're like, man, what are you doing without a cell phone? There's inmates in prison who have cell phones.
Well, that's what always makes me wonder because, like, have you seen the movie Goodfellas?
I wasn't a fan of Goodfellas. I liked Casino better.
Okay, well, like in Goodfellas, how you've got the mobsters who are in jail for a little bit, but they have like this executive cell,
Right.
where they're doing all their own cooking. They're getting bread. They're getting, if Joe's sitting out here, he's going to yell at me, the gabagool, the garlic, and they're making pasta dishes.
Right.
And I'm like, that's prison? You know?
Now, I don't know if they were in a. Now, I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase "club fed."
Yes.
I mean, that refers to like the federal prison system because they have the best of the best.
Yes.
The state prison, I mean, we're obviously on a lower budget than the federals, but now if there's something like that in the federal prison system, which is actually possible, like I know that they have like state of the art weight equipment, state of the art TV, state of the art anything that you can think of. They probably have Wi-Fi for their cell phone in federal prisons. I know some jails actually give them cell phones for their phone use because it's easier and cheaper.
Then what, buying like the prepaid calling cards or doing the collect calling?
Right. Well, like the calling card system that we have, which is what you're referring to, it costs a little bit more for the state versus the inmates. I mean, yeah, we're paying some, but the inmates are paying like probably $4 for a 30-minute call.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, yeah, I could see how like the cell phone would probably help by cost wise, because now all the inmate has to do is buy a phone, and then the state doesn't have to upkeep on the phones to get broken.
Right. But it also makes me wonder, and I don't want you answering this, but I'm going to put it out there because it may be a security thing. I know if they have cell phones, I really hope they're being monitored, because I know a lot of people will do transactions and say things, and I'm hoping that someone's listening to it,
Right. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to talk about that because our phone system, like those are monitored. Now, whether they're monitored right that given second, but they can go back and listen to it.
Okay.
And I don't know if I heard Shaky talking about this on the last podcast that he was on with you, tablets. I mean, those are now in our prison. And in the gym, we hand out between 50 and 90 of them per yard. So
Really?
they get instant messaging. They get they can play games on them. They can look at ESPN. The only thing they don't get is Facebook, obviously. And those that I know of in our facility have not been hacked.
Gary, welcome in. Gary Lewis is like, holy hell, we finally get to see Bobby.
Yeah, Gary, what's up, man?
Oh, Lord, how can I put this? So, I know you've had like a good career in there. What made you transition into being the recess monitor? And that was, I think, your words, like you babysit recess.
Right. I mean, I always make the joke. I say, yeah, I'm the supervisor of recess, but we call it recreation. So I guess that's the professional way of putting it. But it's recess. It's just like when you were a kid and I was a kid and Gary Lewis was a kid. We all went out to recess at a given time. Everybody knew what time they were going out. It was usually right after lunch. We ran around for a little bit, got tired, and then went back to class.
Yeah.
That's essentially what this is. I mean, if they didn't have something to do, and that's what my job is to give them something to do that's, I guess, organized and with rules, then they're going to find something to do. That's make it their hooch, try to smuggle in drugs, smuggle in cell phones, and all that stuff. And that's their mindset. That's why we have what we have.
Now, I know you mentioned you have an indoor and outdoor rec facility. When you guys are shuttling them in and out, do you ever do a sweep through everything to see if there's anything left behind, like, I don't know, shanks or contraband for somebody else?
Yes, always before, and then if I have time after, but most of the time that's the officer's job. But Saturdays when I actually work the morning shift, every other day I work the 12:30 to 8:30 shift, and then on Saturdays I go in at 7 a.m. My first thing I do is I turn all the gym lights on if we're in the gym, or I go outside and I sweep the yard. When I sweep the yard, I look inside the toilets because I know the officers really, I mean, if it's a new officer, they're probably not going to do it, or I'll walk the perimeter of the wall. And we've had stuff thrown over our wall. We've had drones drop things in our yard. But what's been the craziest thing that I've seen is we had this guy, apparently he drove up on a U-Haul truck, and the shirt cannons?
Yeah.
He loaded that with I'm assuming it was just cell phones, and then he stood on top of the actual U-Haul and shot them over the wall. And I guess the driver didn't get information from him before, and he tried to speed off, and the dude rolled off the top of it.
Okay, I got to give him points for originality. Standing on top of the U-Haul and like, you get a T-shirt, poof, you get a T-shirt. Poof. But then, his partner's like, F it, I'm out of here.
Right. And what was crazy is the only reason we were able to see that is I was on my walk, and I know what the yard it normally looks like, if that makes sense. Like, I know how it was when I left the day before. I walked in, I did the perimeter checks. The gate, I don't know. Do you know what a warning track is on a baseball field?
Yes.
Okay. We have
the dirt around the outfield and the infield. That's
right. It's just to warn you that there's a fence coming, right?
Yes.
That area, there's a gate that leads into that area. We have a softball field out there. We play slow pitch softball, just like your local rec commission does. But I walked into the yard and I saw that gate was open. So my first instinct was, hey, I'm going to go shut it because it wasn't open last night. And then that's how I found these little packages of contraband that had been shot over. And I was like, that's an awful far distance. I mean, Brett Favre probably couldn't throw this sucker over a 40-foot wall and it land another between 60 and 80 feet into the yard. That's how I was like, this person needs to be drafted by the NFL.
That had to be one weird call over the radio. Like, y'all ain't going to believe this. Come here,
Well, no, I mean, and that's the thing. I just said, hey, you need a 43 the yard, which is, I guess,
sure,
yeah, meet me in the yard, bring a camera. And that's all I said. And they brought everything out. And then we did another small little sweep and we found 6 more areas that were even farther into the infield of the softball diamond.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. This may sound weird, but I got to ask. Hey, Chris Rayner, how you doing, brother? Glad to see you in here. And I hope the Twins are doing awesome, man. I keep seeing the pictures on your Facebook page, and it's great to see how they're doing. What is the weirdest, if you can say, contraband item that you have ever confiscated that you would say is the weirdest one?
Weirdest contraband item? I mean, when I was in training, they warned us about finding what they call them fifis. I don't know if you've ever heard that term.
Not a fan.
It's a homemade device for males to have sex with, and what it is
okay, I'm with you.
It's black duct tape, and it's just rolled up into a ball for them to make love to, I guess. But I would say that I found one of those, and that would probably be it. I mean, I wouldn't ever actually say that I've ever seen one outside of prison.
That had to be a, dude, really? Kind of moment.
Yeah, it was a little bit different. I mean, other than that, I mean, I found a dart gun. A guy made a dart gun out of a cardboard box.
See, that's what always makes me sit and go, wow. I understand you have a lot of time on your hands when you're in prison, but it seems like some inmates are some of the most industrial mother effers on the planet.
You have no idea.
Even in one of the most secure environments on the planet,
right?
They're still coming up with ways to kill you.
Oh yeah, I mean they have all the time in the world, and you have to give them props for like making half the stuff that they know how to make, and most of them know how to make it just because they got bored, not because somebody taught them. Like I know I did a search once with a guy, like this normal pop can right here. This guy made it to where he had all the liquid drained out of it, and he could twist the bottom of it off. Yeah. And then inside of it was like an area to store all his contraband. But it felt full.
I've seen those in spy stores where people buy them, but never known who's really making them,
Yeah. And what he did was he took a UA cup and put that on the inside of it. And it went up to about halfway up the can, and then he turned it upside down to where the lid could be screwed back onto it.
Wow.
It's pretty intuitive.
Yeah, but I mean, you read the stuff about like rolled up newspapers. I know those are really strong. You can use them as clubs. Rolled up newspapers. You can get them like wet, and when they dry out, when they're rolled up, they basically turn into a club.
Right. And that's another thing. We don't, I mean, now that we've gone to that digital age, I mean, there's only a handful of guys that really want to read the newspaper, so that's probably a benefit for us. But I mean, that brings me back to another thing that I found. I found a noose made out of toilet paper that was like 21 feet long. It was crazy.
I could see that.
And all he did was he kept wetting it and he kept braiding it. And then over time, I think he said it took like 3.5 months.
But I mean, it also makes me say, how the hell do you hide that in your cell? But that, I know they're industrious little critters. I know.
It's funny you say that because we had a captain not too long ago. He said he always called them critters. He's like, the critters can't get out if you don't let the critters out. He always called them critters.
What is one piece of advice you would give to anybody watching this who wants to join the corrections officer team? Who wants to become a CO?
Keep an open mind. Listen to the people who have actually been there. I mean, take the time and actually listen to what they have to say versus what you think what should actually be said. And I think that was probably my problem when I first started with the older guys that I was stuck with that were on the verge of retiring. It's not that they weren't telling me what I should be doing or what is a good way of doing it. They were giving me the easy way of doing my job.
Okay, I can see.
I mean, I was young and I was ready to go. I mean, I wanted to do all this stuff, but they were like, "You don't need to do that." I mean, just take the time and listen to what they're saying, and then apply it, because it's going to come down to you and be like, "Oh, that's what he meant."
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can say that in every walk of life, because right. I will say, as a YouTube reviewer, if I'd listened to certain people earlier, I think I'd be better off. And one of them's in the chat. I know he's going to start laughing because he likes to point that out every time I should have listened to him. Not mentioning any names, Gary Lewis. Never mention your name, Gary. But still. I know you mentioned that you got your special response team in the prison. Have you ever thought about joining that at any point or training for it?
Maybe when I was younger. I mean, I'm not that old, but like now now that I've been when I worked there in 2009 to 2011, that would have probably been the time for me to join. And then ever since I left and went to the psych hospital and then came back, no chance. I don't want nothing. I want nothing to do with that. That's for the 18-year-olds we're hiring right out of high school.
No, I get it, because especially at my age, I remember stuff I was doing at 17. Now, if I sneeze hard, it's like I'm on the ground going, my back, Right. And there are some guys that, I mean, I think the oldest guy that I've seen on that team, he was probably 60. In shaky, I don't doubt that, brother. CERT is a young officer's game. I don't doubt it.
Right.
Because the cell extractions they probably have to do and the other stuff, wow.
Well, cell extractions, I mean, if you're not working in that cell house, they usually try to find somebody that's not, I guess, in direct contact with that individual all the time. So if, say, there's a cell extraction in point A and you're working in point D, they're going to call somebody from point D to come over and do that cell extraction. It's not always going to be the CERT team.
Well, I understand that, but when you think of
I was just giving you an idea about how, if the CERT team isn't there, so during the day they're mainly there, and then the shifts that I've worked my whole career there, we haven't had a CERT team.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I get that, because every prison I know operates certain things and does things a little bit differently. But that's got to be, in my opinion, one of the most scary things in a prison is when you got to go into somebody's home and try to remove them because you don't know what's in there. And
that's another. My aunt, she's a bondsman. Well, she passed away. She used to own a company called Barb's Bell Bonds, and that was another job that I had for probably couple of years here and there. I was a bounty hunter, or I don't even really know the technical term, but in certain areas you have to call the cops and say, "Hey, we're in this area to come get this guy," so that they can back you up. And there's been a few times where I've been a little shaky about going into a place. More worried about bed bugs rather than guns.
Sorry. Oh my God. I could take a bullet and fuck a bed bug.
Yeah. If I see a knife, I might think about it, but a bed bug, I'm out.
That's a whole nother level. Bounty hunting. Okay. You see the romanticized part of Dog the Bounty Hunter on A&E, where most of that is set up. Give me a break. The white boy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure that there's probably 75% of it's probably set up.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I know you guys got to do a lot of detective work as a bounty hunter, track people down, find people, and do it as quick and painless as possible. Because I know a lot of states you can't bring a person in if they have visible injuries,
Right.
from what I've heard. So,
Yeah, it probably depends on the state.
yeah, because you hear the Wild West where they used to pull, beat the shit out of you, throw you over a horse, and bring you back.
Right.
But I get where all those have shaped and formulated the new policies and procedures that are currently in place for everyone.
Oh yeah, and that's why you have to have a license to do it now. It's probably because of how it was back then.
Agreed. I understand it can be very lucrative because you're getting paid by the bounty.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 10% of a bond. So if somebody went in for a $10,000 bond, you get $1,000 if you can bring them in.
Yeah, but if you think about it, just say it's really quick, and we'll get back on track here because I want to talk about mental health and other stuff.
Right.
If it's you that $1,000, if you catch them in an hour, that's a damn good paycheck.
Right.
All right, what we got here? Aaron Rodgers saying, I'm interested in watching prison docs and how the race wars are. I wonder if it's actually that bad. There we go. Yeah. Or is it just TV shows like 60 Days In? I was going to bring that up in a moment. Have you seen that show, 60 Days In?
I haven't ever actually seen 60 Days In just because I work there. So I've never really, I guess, been into it. I guess just because I work there. So I've never really watched the shows. I have seen like Locked Up and stuff like that, but that was before I was working at the prison.
See, for me, one of my favorite shows is Beyond Scared Straight.
Right.
And I always remember that prison in Georgia. I can't remember exactly where, but the guard was so intense and just so right there. And it always had me dying with laughter when he told this one kid, he's like, you're going to be back here. You're going to be a guest of mine very, very soon. And when they had the revisit back to the prison, the kid actually got arrested and was in the prison. And the guard's like, I told him he's right there. Right there.
Was that an old one?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm like, I always remember that guard. I always remember it was out of Georgia, and I'm just like, wow. But I do agree with Aaron. Is it like the race war is that bad in prison? Like, I know I've seen a lot of people with their YouTube stuff going, each race sticks to themselves. You have people who talk and intermix. That way if there's a beef, it gets worked out quick.
Now, I guess it's going to depend on what's going on at the time, but usually there are gang wars, and usually it's when there's a drug trade issue going on. So if one group has control of the drug trade at that time, and the other one wants the drug trade, then that's when they'll start feuding.
Andrew, last count I knew was about 12. Jimmy is very, very busy right now with his craft fair thing. Him and I are going to talk really, really soon. We're going to hit that 20, and yeah, I will be eating scorpions on a one chip, but yeah.
Power to you.
Dude, I gotta help brothers, Bearded North, how are you, Harry Hooligan? And yeah, Shiki, I knew it was in Georgia. I just couldn't remember where. That was always, those two episodes were my favorite of that whole entire series. Just because of that one guard.
And that's, Scared Straight was actually a program since I live in the town that I live in, which is Hutchinson, Kansas. Since we are a city that has a prison in it, when I was in grade school, every kid that was in 4th or 5th grade, every male, had to go through the Scared Straight program at one time between those two grades. Not because you were in trouble, but because you lived in a prison town.
Yeah, but I could see the plus and minuses of that.
Right.
Because you're always going to get the knuckleheads who are going to go in there like, well, Beyond Scared Straight showed. They're like, man, it ain't scaring me. It ain't scaring me. It ain't scaring me. It's like, it's going to,
Right. And yeah, and I've gone to school with probably, when I first started, it was like, I would say 1 out of every 50 I went to school with.
Wow. That's just, wow. I mean,
now it's not so much because the guys that I went to school with that were in prison at that time have now gotten out. Now it's probably 1 out of every 200.
Yeah, but you've got to look back at that and go, I used to sit right behind him in math class,
right.
And now you're like, dude, you're in prison for a triple homicide. What the fuck?
Right. And usually when it hits me, I'm like, man, like I was just in school with you 15 years ago. Now I'm like strip searching you. This is a little weird.
Yeah, see, I was about to bring that up and go, have you ever been put in that position where you're like, I know
Yep.
this guy?
I knew the guy very well. We wrestled in a kids club for about 6 years.
Is there any policy put in place for, like, if you know the inmate that is being intaken, that you have to step aside and let someone else come up? So there's not any of that potentially, whatever.
I would say short answer, yes. Long answer is that if you write your correct paperwork and they don't think it's going to be a problem, like here's for example, like I have a detail crew out in my gym and yard. One of the guys that works for me, I used to know probably in 6th grade. We used to hang out in 6th grade, and I just got a hold of EAI and I said, hey, I knew this kid in 6th grade. I don't think it's going to be a problem. He doesn't even recognize who I am now, but normally, like for a strip search, if they're already in the prison and they already have paperwork that, yeah, you knew them or, yeah, you've had some sort of interaction with them in the past, then they don't have a problem.
And Emirates, no, they really can't do any harm to them whatsoever. The whole thing is to get in their face and make them not want to be in jail with them.
Right.
And yeah, Shaky, I should ask you that, bro, because yeah, that's got to be really, really tough. It does. I always made the joke whenever Cops was in like a town I'd lived in. I'm like, ooh, who do I know? Ooh, hey, is that someone I know on screen?
Right.
But yeah. All right. So we're going to switch topics a little bit. We're going to get into mental health because I know your job, you guys have a really high rate of just breakdowns, problems. I don't want to say suicides because I don't know the exact stat. But I do know that you guys get ground down every single day because you've got to maintain that high standard and you're always on a watch for what's about to happen. Anything from a spork to like a baseball going missing,
Right.
And it was asked earlier, how do you decompress before you come home and you're around your family so you can leave work Bobby at work and come home and be house Bobby? And that sounds so bad, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. But that takes me back to the question you had about why I switched from being an officer to gym and yard or recess.
Yeah.
I don't have that mental, I guess, stress like I did when I was an officer. When I was an officer in 2009 to 2011, I didn't ever think about that. And since I didn't think about it, I mean, I was hanging out with people that worked there. I was hanging out with people that didn't work there, but I was always drinking. Okay. And that became to be the problem. But now that I'm married and I have a wife, I mean, she always asked me like how my day was, and I always say nothing happened. I mean, she's not okay with that, but that's literally what happens. If nothing happens, that's a good day.
Yeah.
But that's the benefit of me being in the gym and yard is that, yeah, there is stress because I have to tell guys stop jumping on the tables. But it's not like when I was an officer, like they looked at me differently. When you have that patch on your shirt, they're going to look at you like you're the police. But when I'm gym and yard, they call me coach. It's kind of weird.
So, yeah, I was about to ask you that because like you see, granted, my only knowledge is TV and movies where you see that respect level between like inmates and older guards where they're like, you got that young kid who's about to do something stupid. Like, no, not with him. Not with him.
Right.
Do you feel that respect is afforded to you as, well, coach?
Yeah. I mean, like, for instance, last week there was an instance where this guy was shadow boxing and punching like this. It was a basketball goal, like the crash pad of a basketball goal. I just walked up to him and said, "Hey, don't shadow box." And then after that, he what was weird is that he got upset that I came up to him and not an officer. I was like, okay, because that makes 100% sense. But yeah, I get that. I get that camaraderie with the older inmates versus the new inmates, of course. I mean, that's just how it is because, I mean, I've known some of those inmates since day one. But I think that the biggest one is that I don't have that badge on my shirt.
See, I can see how that would make a whole bunch of difference. Because like you're saying, badge represents authority. Badge represents the man. Badge represents the mother effers who put me in here and I got to get back at them.
Right.
And it leads me to one question that I did ask Shaky. I'm going to ask you. do you have like a really good success story where you really helped an inmate overcome something? Anything that may stick out to you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I had one instance when I was in segregation. Uh, I was in segregation, and they have these things called sit calls. We're not allowed to read the sit calls, and that's usually on like this line piece that says like whatever company the medical crew is that's working there now. I'm not sure, but what I got off by was that I was able to read what was on the other side, which is blank. So it wasn't a part of the sit call. He wrote this note on the back of it it was like an extra piece of paper talking about that he was going to kill himself at like 9 p.m. or something like that. I just looked at it. Just by looking at that piece of paper, I mean, I was able to get him out of his cell before anything was going to happen, and then he went and saw medical help.
That's cool. I mean,
just little things like that, just looking.
Yeah, but that's awesome when you look at it. And I've always said it's the little things. When you can control those itty bitty little things, like I've told my kids, if you can control the chimpanzees, you ain't got to worry about the gorillas.
Right.
Because little things turn into massive gorillas. And sometimes it can happen like that, but if you're ready, you're good to go,
Right.
Oh, Lord. All right. So
But my biggest success story, if you really want to get technical, is when I left in 2011. This is outside of the prison. Is that we had an inmate who was in prison when I was there. He got out on like parole or something like that. I'm not sure. And then I guess he relapsed with heroin or something like that. I'm not really 100% sure, but he came into the psychiatric emergency assessment center where I left the prison and came there, and he had no rapport with the police. He had rapport with me because I was in SEG with him. He was literally in SEG from when I was started in SEG until I left, so about 2 years. So when he came into the facility, he wasn't happy about being there. He wasn't happy about what he had to do. But he came in and he saw me. He recognized me right off. And what's crazy is that I purchased a design that he had made for a tattoo of mine.
Oh, nice.
He designed like a tribal Notre Dame tattoo, and then I got the tattoo put on me, and that's how he remembered me. So I would say that I was able to talk him into just going through the process without having any problem. Now, I would say that would be my best success story because I had a good rapport with them in prison, and that's your job, is to be able to correct them to have a good rapport with you out of prison.
See, I think that's awesome. I really do. I mean, it shows how you can touch people's lives in ways you're not even thinking.
Right.
Just from the simple act of you purchasing a tattoo is awesome. The design for it. But the fact he knew you and knew you were a stand-up guy, you were able to help guide him through that process and get him hopefully back on a better path.
Right.
Dude, respect, bro. Seriously. Yeah, seriously, Rambo. Seriously, isn't that cool? You ain't got to worry about him. He's hiding in Alabama somewhere designing video games, so still.
It's such small print.
Unfortunately, yeah. That's an interesting one. Amrit wants to know, does your beard help with authority?
I wouldn't say it helps with authority. I think it probably sort of takes their mind off of actually being upset about something, because I've had some guys get upset with officers, and then if I'm over there, they'll like turn towards me and be like, "Man, that's a nice beard." It's very odd.
You should tell them that's right. Smell it. It smells like move. Really good. Smell it. Yeah, I see that pride in that smile. I see that.
I'll take it.
Now, speaking of mental health, I hope he's in here because I've been waiting to do this all night. What was it like working with Gary Lewis on your collab?
Oh, it was very simple. I mean, I told him the scent profile that I was looking for. I told him why I chose the name, and he really loved the name. I think that's really what he was like, man, I really like that name and why I chose it. But yeah, it only took one sample bottle of him sending me a bottle, and I was like, that's it.
Nice. So
it was awesome.
First try.
Yeah.
Damn. See, I was looking to pick on him a little more. Take that away. I see how you are.
I mean, you can't knock the guy.
No, you really can't.
No. He works his ass off too.
See, there you go. Rambo's going as an artist. He finds it really cool because it's an amazing feeling when folks appreciate your artwork.
Right. There's an amazing. We have amazing artists in prison. It's crazy. Some of the stuff that they've. I mean, I've still got old paintings in my office that people made from the '80s. That's just like their oil-based paint work that they've done. It's like a bald eagle, I think, is one of them, and then another one we have. It's like a forest, like the treetops of Oregon, actually, like looking over the treetops of Oregon.
Nice. Okay, so let's address that one real quick. How do they get art supplies in prison? I mean, did they go to like a class and it's there, or are they working on this in their cells?
Now, certain art projects that they want to work on. So, like our unit doesn't have arts and crafts time. So we have another facility, which is our low, medium, and minimum security, which is the East unit.
Okay.
They have woodshop class. They have paint class. They have, I think at one time they had a boxcar derby class.
Nice.
And that's it. Two other facilities here. We have 3 facilities. We have a minimum, maximum, and then minimum and medium. And those 2 minimum and medium ones, they both have arts and crafts.
So basically, like, the more well-behaved you are, the better stuff you get in prison. You know,
that's the idea. Yeah,
I get that.
But at Central, we have like guys that enter like drawing contests with like either pen, pencil, or colored pencil or crayon.
Is that stuff you can get in commissary, or?
You can get it on commissary, or you can get it on commissary, and then you can also get it through a place called Union Supply. So like it's a little higher priced, but their family can purchase stuff on there and send it to them, like books, hygiene stuff, some food, and then arts and crafts.
See, I think it also brings up another question. Have you ever been in a position where you had to go through incoming mail before it got distributed to the inmates?
As a seg officer, you always have to go through the mail before you hand it out. So, like, I would pull out. What's crazy? I would always pull out all of the staples. Like whenever they open the mail, they would go through all of their whatever's inside the envelope or the magazine, and then if it's an envelope, they'll staple it back up. They just didn't think about that. So I would go through every single envelope and then remove the staple.
Well, yeah, you're giving them free metal. I mean,
right.
And you get a bunch of that together with a lighter and some industrious little people, you can make a neat little stabby.
Yep.
Not that,
and that's just the little things. But other than that, like I've gotten an envelope that had like women's perfume, and I felt like I just went to the strip club, and I was like, man, like it was covered in this. It was covered in this perfume. It was horrendous.
See, I feel bad for the guys that got to go through the mail, because I know some people are sending glitter bombs just on purpose. So when you open it and the glitter explodes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that's probably happened, but not at our facility, because whenever they come in now, they go through immediately through an X-ray machine. If there's anything that looks weird, it gets sent back.
Nice.
So that's a benefit, I guess, of the mailroom. I wouldn't want to work it. I'd rather probably strip out dudes for probably 2 hours than work in the mailroom for 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, tedious.
Okay. Dude, you know my thing about bottle openers. I will get you for that, Rambo. I will get you.
Did they ever make a bottle opener out of staples?
He's messing with me because, like, I do a lot of gear reviews. And It seems like every freaking company out there wants to put a bottle opener on everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, look, here's the knife. I got to give you a bottle opener. Oh, look, here's a way to break a window out in an emergency situation. Oh, look, you have to have a bottle opener.
Yeah, they got a lot of bottle openers if you think about it.
Well, yeah, but I'm like, I'm breaking 50. I'm an adult. I know how to get to my alcohol. You know, if I don't have a bottle opener, I'll get it open.
They got rid of the Swiss Army knife bottle opener and put it on everything else.
Right? Oh, man. Okay, so I got one more question for you because I hear my kids like going after my better half downstairs, so I'm gonna have to wrap it up a little early, unfortunately.
That's all right. Well, it's 9, so we've gone almost over.
Yeah. Is there any position in the prison that you may want to work other than the job you have right now? It's like your grail job in that prison.
Ideal job. I mean,
grail, like the ultimate I want.
I think that the coolest, I'm going to go with like the coolest job that probably sticks out. And I think that would probably be working in the canine unit if I was ever back in security. The drug sniffing dogs, the tobacco.
I was going to say that would probably be interesting.
I think that'd probably be the ideal job for security, just because you get it's something new every day. And our canine units here actually work with the local police department. So
yeah, but I mean, it's like I could see when you're having to go in a cell and look, you may not smell something, you may overlook something, but with the dog's sensory, their senses and how well refined it is, and how they can pick things out of anywhere. Just going into prison, the dog's like, look, tobacco right there.
Right. You know? They even have a special dog. I think they have two now. They can smell the lithium batteries in cell phones.
Billy, have a safe shift, brother. We'll talk later.
See you, Billy.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just that.
The power that they have, like, you would just, if you brush up against like probably a tobacco leaf, that dog that smells tobacco is going to smell that on you, whether it be 2 hours, 3 hours later. It's
yeah,
crazy.
and that's, you can't really deny that when you're going in there. The dog's like right there. Right. Hello.
And we had a great master sergeant who was over that department at one time. He had a dog that he didn't use handcuffs. Whenever he would search an inmate and they had something on him, he wouldn't search the inmate. He would just tell him to lock his thumb like this behind his back, and the dog would watch that hand. And if he ever let go, the dog would start barking.
Wow.
That's how good of a trainer he was. I think that would probably be the most ideal job other than what I'm doing now. I probably have the best job in the prison.
See, and that's another reason why, I don't know if you caught that live when I did my Beast Yourself collab with
No, you actually did that live probably 2 hours before I got off.
Yep, I went with the German Shepherd as the Beast, because that's the vast bulk of the military working dogs.
Right.
And
didn't they used to use bloodhounds?
Yes.
Yeah.
But when things progressed, German Shepherds became the ideal dog that you want to do for like bomb sniffing, drug interdiction, security work, and everything.
Have you ever watched those videos about how they train them?
Yeah, I've actually been the idiot in the dog suit where you're trying to run.
Oh, yes. We used to have inmates, actually, they signed up for that. That was their job. They would live in with the dogs to feed them.
Yeah.
Then whenever they had like a show. What's that?
I've seen a show on that, like the rehabilitation progress with the canines.
Oh, yeah, that's a different one, which we have, which is called the CARES program. They train the dogs for like people that are blind, or they have I think they had one that they could recognize when somebody's blood sugar was about to go low, if they're diabetes.
Oh, nice.
But the one I'm talking about is we had inmates that would live with our canine unit that would do the searches. And those two inmates that lived with them they initially signed up for taking care of the dogs, of course, but two, if there's a show like at our fair that we have every year, they would wear that suit that you're talking about.
Yeah, I just remember, go run, don't look back.
Right. You're going to get caught either way.
Yeah, those fur missiles don't fuck around.
No.
They will give you like a football field head start before you know it, they're on your arm.
Well, they had one, I saw a video, they had one jump over a 30-foot wall, jumping off of its owner's back.
I just remember, sorry, I was watching an episode of Cops, and the guy takes off running on the officer, and he's like, you do realize I have a canine, right? And the guy keeps running, and the cops are like, all right, tap the dog, and my son went, oh, he's fucked. I was like, well, you're correct. You cannot use that language. And it's just funny how that dog's like, gone. And the guy's on the ground, get him off. I'm like, well, you're the dumbass who ran on the officer.
Well, that takes me back to, sorry if you have to go, but it takes me back to one story. I was working at the hospital, and we actually had cops filming in the area that I was working in. And they brought in, they followed in police, and they were stopped at the door, but one of the producers was there, and he's like, yeah, this guy won't sign off on this video that happened. And I was like, can you show me? He goes, yeah, I can show you, but I can't put it on national television. So he showed me. They responded to a house. They were getting a complaint on something, and they knocked on the door. Nobody was answering, so they were just going to turn away and leave. The guy had crawled up on top of his awning of his carport, naked, and as they were turning away, he fell through the carport.
Sorry. Oh Oh my God.
It was like perfect time footage.
Oh my God, that's great. All right, so guys, we are at that point. Bobby, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, bro.
Yep.
I'm glad we
pleasure.
finally got you on here. It has been a very, very enjoyable conversation.
You'll have to do it again sometime.
Oh, heck yeah. And I always put this out here at the end. I mean, you've seen my show before. I don't know if you've seen the end. I
Right.
throw a challenge out to everybody. And I think it's a very, very important challenge. And it's really simple, guys. Call 3 people this week. 3. Here's why. You never know what somebody's going through. I understand certain restrictions are being lifted in certain areas. You've got just everybody who's kind of been out of whack since the coof has been out there. You never know what someone's going through. A simple phone call that goes, how are you? How you doing? And then have the courage to listen. You never know how that can change someone's life. If you can't call 3, call 2. You can't call 2, call 1. And I always do this, Bobby. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, well, 3 minutes of your silence is better than 30 seconds of you talking.
Damn straight, brother. Now, I always do this. Tomorrow's video is going to be my ultimate biased review on GI with Ready Man. I'm going to go over everything that I talked about during my live. I'm going to break down scent profiles and everything in there. And there's very important information in that video tomorrow. Guys, remember, make me write a big stinking check to stopsoldiersuicide.org. I can't wait to go broke writing that check. And not to mention, I really want to see, the Jersey jerk-off eat a tarantula. He is my best friend with that. But still, I also ask, I know you really don't do reviews or anything, Bobby. Do you have anything coming up this week that anyone might want to know about?
I don't have anything. This was the biggest thing that had come up all week, except work.
Hey, I appreciate that. I'm the biggest thing in his week. Yes!
I'm going to have to check out your scent. When's that drop?
It already has dropped.
Okay, I'll have to check into that.
Yep, it dropped on Veterans
You bought
Day.
mine off to buy yours.
Hey, I appreciate it. And it's blueberry, Cuban tobacco, blended whiskey, and leather.
Oh, it's got to be good.
Oh, dude, it is. The way Jimmy did it. Oh, it's really good.
Is it the same leather? Sorry, is it the same leather as Bluegrass Bearded's that he did? No. The one with the rose in it? Not the same leather?
Different leather.
Hopefully a little bit more.
It's more of a throwback to military times. It's more of a tribute to military stuff. Like,
oh, cool.
If you think the iconic K-bar sheath, leather, you think shoulder holsters that officers used to have made out of leather, think along those lines.
Okay.
The blended whiskey is phenomenal. The Cuban tobacco adds a lot in there. And blueberry is in there because I like blueberries and I wanted something a little bit different. So
everybody likes blueberry.
Yeah, dude, I always made the joke with 3 of those 4 items. If you're on duty, you may find all 3 on people, especially the military I grew up in, and old sergeant majors having a canteen full of bourbon and whiskey and other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're off duty, you're probably going to find 4 out of 4. So
that's one thing in prison, which is funny. The blueberries, like exotic fruit, that's one thing that those inmates love is they miss fruit. And I noticed it just by eating a peach at work. They'd be like, man, I would kill for that peach.
Oh, God. See, with my sense of humor, I'd be like, I'll give you my ex's address. Yep. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know, bud. I had to make an expenditure tonight that I wasn't counting on, but it's worth every single penny. So I'm going to leave
flood
it like
insurance.
That. Helping a friend.
I figured it might be flood insurance. You said you were flooding up there, so I threw a ball up in the air.
Around me, no. If you go in a 3-mile radius, yeah, there's some problems, but there's always problems because, like, the area I'm in, it always does this at the beginning of winter. It rains for 3 weeks straight.
Right.
So water levels rise. And if they just do what they're supposed to do and take care of stuff beforehand, we wouldn't have those flooding issues.
Right.
But still. Gary, I was kind of thinking the same thing. He's really hot and heavy on that one. But guys, thanks so much for watching. We're going to hit that little outro. Bobby, stick around. There's something in the green room I do want to talk to you about.
All right.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we will see you later on.
See you.
Guys, thank you so much for the time you just gave me. I hope you enjoyed our guest tonight if we had one, and yes, I'm pre-recording this, or that you might have enjoyed an open mic night or whatever the heck just happened. We're going to try to do these every single Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and whatever you guys are in between and around the world. Next week, we should have another amazing guest or something really cool for you to watch. Thanks so much for watching all this stuff, guys, and we'll see you in our next one.